Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Hey, they're live from the Law 400 studios in sunny San Diego, California. Big Biz Show's on there. Great to have you along today. Where is Costa? I haven't seen Costa in a week.
I mean,
starting to get worried.
Vacay.
I'm thinking the word.
Vacay, baby.
Last time me and James were missing somebody, a musician, and we couldn't get a hold of him. Turned out he was in the pokey.
That's what I was.
You still can't get a hold of him.
They were on tour. James, what's that bass you're playing there? What's that little micro bass you got going there?
God, I love this. This is the new Taylor.
Hey.
Taylor guitars, of course. I am a very famous artist with the Taylor guitar. You've seen Bob Taylor on our show before, and of course,
love Bob Taylor.
Now I'm exclusive on stage with Taylor guitars. Do you see this number over here?
Wow.
Equipment in here.
That is.
Go to TaylorGuitars.com. We're going to be doing an event with Taylor Guitars coming up, and we'll describe it very shortly. But it has to do with handing out guitars and giving lessons for those military men and women who have experienced PTSD.
Love it.
Wow.
Where they take them through and they teach them a couple of songs, they give them a guitar, and it takes their mind off of everything. Is that
Totally.
fantastic? Good stuff.
Therapeutic.
We'll be doing that. Howie Font's with us, of course, the Crash Davis of the program. Have you been outside? Your spacious apartment there in New York City since May? Because I understand it's 109 degrees and 109% humidity right now.
You know what? We've had a pleasant 10 days or so. I'm sitting outside having dinner. It's a great time. Great July, and I'm knocking on wood. I don't want anything to change.
What's the latest for the rest of the year? Are we see summertime volatility or no? Are we going to see activity in the stock market? Because it seems like you talk about summer slowdowns. I don't see anything slowing down.
Yeah, there's been some news, I don't know if you've heard, that's kept the market churning. Some political developments, I think, have kept things going, and then the market is just hot with legitimate business activity. So, I mean, in previous shows I talked about new IPOs, but what I've been harping on for a long time is this dichotomy between smaller companies and the very, very largest, the Mag 7 as they're now known. The group shifts every now and then, but that's coming down. So we actually, I don't know when taping is, but yesterday we saw our biggest drop since 2022. And that's because people are getting out of the big tech names and into the rest of the economy. And that's a good thing. It needs to rebound.
Now, is that just because they're going to their summer home in the Hamptons for a few months and they're getting back in? Because you talk about rebalancing portfolios all the time. And the Russell 2000 just rebalanced, about 6 weeks ago? And you saw a big change in the values of some stocks as a result of that. Are you talking about institutional investors kind of move their money over, or do you think this is a permanent thing for a while?
No, this is a cyclical thing. So we got to a point where 7 companies had a market cap equal to like everything else in the entire world combined. We saw Nvidia in that story, and it was just too much. So people are taking a little bit of money off the table. They're taking some of the tech money off the table and rebalancing portfolios and buying a little bit of everything else.
The prospect of 2% inflation anytime soon in real inflation numbers. You talked about that last time a little bit.
No. That's not.
It answered.
Look, it might come down nominally, but the Fed has said it's not going to wait for hitting its normal 2% target before it starts cutting. And if we cut, then the economy will get a little boost, but it's not going.
Are you even a little bit optimistic? I mean, I'm just looking for a little bit of silver lining.
Okay. No, I think they're great signs.
Howie Font, thanks, buddy. More Big Biz to come. Stand by.
Coast to coast in the United States of America, in Mexico on Bloomberg Financiero. Also in Europe on Bloomberg EU, in over 175 countries, all the ships at sea. On the American Forces Network, it is the Big Biz Show. Hope you guys are having a great day. Costa, Marybird, Godwin. Of course, we have the beautifully talented Day Trader Trio. Thanks everybody for being along for the ride.
Is that the theme song to Ratatouille they're playing over there?
Okay, first off, it's not Ratatouille, it's Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
No,
I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's got a mouse and some.
And ma'am, your order tonight, I would like to try the Ratatouille.
Ratatouille. It sounds
good.
better.
Yeah.
I think.
If I sound a little snuffly up, I snuffled whatever. I just got back from the East Coast, and one of the little rugrats in our house had a cold. And then my buddy got it, and then I have it. So
and he's passing it to me currently.
Yeah, as I'm coughing on Mary during the breaks. Let's talk a little finance with our financial analyst from the Big Biz Show, one Howie Font, back with us here.
Hey,
Howie, my friend, great to see you. It's been a while. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to be on Nunya. It's quieter.
it is quieter. It's so peaceful.
You know, H, one of the great things about Nunya Business is that it's a team effort, and we will let you talk as long as you want. Talk to us about Ford and the long goodbye. What's happening to this beloved American brand?
Yeah, I thought it was a point worth making because I had an emotional reaction last week. Earnings came out for Ford, and the stock dropped 20%. And,
wow.
You know, the auto companies have been bailed out. We've heard about Detroit. It is on an uptrend now, but not the traditional car companies. They're not the reason for that. So I thought we should just talk about, you know, the life cycle of companies and really look at some of the data. Because not only did it drop, but Morgan Stanley also today actually said their favorite auto pick was Tesla and to leave traditional autos. So it's kind of a bellwether in the investment community.
Okay.
So I went in and I dug in and I looked and I saw that in the 1950s, the average company stayed on the S&P for 65 years. That's how long they had been there.
Okay.
In the 70s, that dropped down to 35 years. Now it's less than 20 years companies stay on the S&P. So
really?
Yeah. So then I went through and we've discussed Circuit City before. Everyone knows Blockbuster. Think of gas stations changing, and there really is a lot of turnover in the economy. And then you have to ask, you know, isn't it kind of sad you're losing American brand names?
Sure.
Yeah.
So do we know what the cause was of that huge drop for Ford?
Yeah, they didn't make as much money as people were expecting, and they particularly didn't do well with their electric vehicle EV sales. So I think it's mostly because people don't want EVs necessarily. They kind of just want Teslas.
Okay, Howie, that you mentioned that, and Elon Musk has done an incredible job, obviously, with Tesla, and we are a Tesla family. My son recently just bought one. Is it because the EV mandates were force-fed to companies like Ford and Chevrolet, other car makers out there, here in the United States, and people want the choice. I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but don't people want that choice? Hey, if I want to buy an electric car, I'm not going to have the government tell me what I'm going to drive.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think that's definitely true. I don't know if it's the cause for Ford's current calamity.
Okay.
So the government did set those mandates. They set mile per gallon mandates that increase every year. So the fleet of cars that each company makes has to average out to a certain level of miles per gallon, 55, I think, right now. So you have to have a lot of EVs to kind of pull the average up. If you have a lot of low mile per gallon trucks or hauling vehicles or something like that, you have to balance it out with EVs. So there is that aspect of it. The other aspect, personally, I think, is electric vehicles do better in cities ICE vehicles, internal combustion engine vehicles, do worse in cities and better on highways. And I think it's a rural-urban thing. And then I think there's the cultural aspect of it too. So no, people definitely shouldn't be forced to make the choice. But in Ford's case, this wasn't that. This was they're not good at selling EVs yet. So,
Howie, I know Mary's got a question in a second here about investing for her daughter, but you sent over a pretty cool looking graph, and if you could explain that to us, I'm assuming it has to do with companies. Well, it's top 10 Fortune 500 companies, and you talk about where Ford is, and is that good for Ford still, or no, not at all?
No, I mean, you're seeing, if you look at that, it goes kind of quick.
Yeah.
But you're seeing Ford grow the entire time, but not grow at pace with the rest of the economy. And I sent this over just because I want people to understand that this turnover is natural. It's happening, and the kinds of businesses that are there. In the beginning of that chart, you see oil and gas companies, the large car companies, people selling big expensive products, people that are selling the fuel for those big expensive products. And by the end of it, it switches to technology companies, to Walmart, to scaled retail stores. So things shift in the economy all the time, and the names are never going to change, and we shouldn't get comfortable or get disappointed like I did last week at one company declining, because the nature of our economy is something's going to come take its place.
Howie, I'm going to just totally derail this conversation for a second because
Let's switch gears.
I'm switching gears. Speaking of cars, because I have a moment with you, I'm going to use this as a little personal advice segment. But my daughter, who's...
Do we have to run a disclaimer?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But my daughter, who's under 18, but she just got some money through this dance competition thing, and a big check's coming to her, and I put it right to her bank account, and I thought, I know that I should be doing something really good with this. We have her 529 set up and all this stuff for college, but I also know that younger generations are like curious about Robinhood and all these investing apps, and there's just so many things coming in my feed. So from the youthful perspective, is there some sort of advice of what you would say for these younger kids that are working and getting money, to start out, and where they should put that big chunk of money?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what a great position for your daughter to be in. Has a little extra cash. She's probably she's not in charge of any rent responsibilities yet, I'm assuming.
Right. And I just don't want it to all go to her, Starbucks drinks and her fast fashion habits.
I have seen a couple cases of this and can diagnose the problem.
I knew I came to the right place.
Listen, I think it's a mental issue at this level of personal finance, not really math driven, but we can use math to help it. So let's establish a baseline level of spending, something reasonable. Let's go back at the last 3 bank statements and say, from now on, I'm going to spend, 80. It's all junk because you said there's no rent, there's no utilities or anything like that at her age. So it's all, frivolous, but important psychologically and just to have a life spending. Let's go back, average out the last 3 bank statements for the last 3 months. Say we're going to spend 80% of that, and you can keep 2-3 months worth of cash in your checking account, that amount of money at a time. The rest of it, let's put it in savings, one money market fund for short-term cash that you might need. If you're, going to have an emergency expense, it's going to come out of this pile of money. Let's put that in the money market fund, and we've discussed that on the show before. And then everything beyond that, hey, let's just invest it. Let's try and dabble in the S&P 500, SPY.
Should she try? Yeah. I mean, I don't use an app like a Robinhood or anything like that. So is that something that this younger generation is having success with, or would you stay away from something like that?
Well, I think the apps make it really easy. I think probably going on a computer and setting up an E-Trade account or a Robinhood or something like that is the thing to do. But if it's on an app, you tend to check it every day. You tend to be anxious about it. If you're going to use the app to set up the account and fund it and get it invested, do all that and then just delete it. And then go log in on the computer once a month, once every 3 months. This is long-term cash to be set aside. And then the other thing is, I don't know about your daughter, Mary, but if she's working at all, if she has any earned income, then let's try and use as many years of lower wages while you're eligible to do a Roth IRA contribution. So to make sure that gets done.
That's the tip I'm looking for right there. Yeah.
He is our Big Biz Show market analyst. Always enjoy our time with Mr. Howie Font. Little personal financial insight for you. Howie, thanks as always for the visit. We'll talk to you next week, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, Howie.
All right, Howie Font, Big Biz Show market analyst. Much more of the Big Biz Show coming up after this. Big Biz Show rolls on wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. As always, we appreciate you being with us for a program that in other parts of the world is called the Large Financial Program. Costa, Marybird Godwin, Greg Todorov, and Sully.
Good. Pardon me. Great to see you today, and I will tell you what a great conversation we had with Howie Font regarding financial literacy.
Gosh.
We need to spend more time on that. There needs to be and it's not going to be me. There needs to be a financial literacy expert.
For kids.
They're kids, because, and maybe we should relaunch Sully Speaks Money on TikTok Money.
Yeah.
Because it was mainly young folks that wanted to know stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, this ain't your parents' lemonade stand.
Yeah, this ain't your father's business show either.
Hello.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
That's true. No.
Kirk Huntsman, of course, CEO of Vivos Therapeutics, one of the friends of the show. We're so blessed to have had him in studio a number of times. We're going to have him in some more. And of course, he is in charge of Vivos, Vivos.com. That is the company that has created an oral device to deal with OSA, obstructive sleep apnea. First of all, Kirk, welcome to the program once again. Thanks for taking time out. We like you much better in studio than out of studio. And I think that new picture of you blowing leaves off your hand looks pretty good. I like the haircut, mister.
Yeah, well, I wish I looked that good.
Hey, can I, before we start here, can you describe what Mike Costa went through up to this point, and then we'll get an update from Mike to see where he is in the program. But Mike decided, and you guys most generously offered up one of your best doctors in the world, dentist of the world here in San Diego, to do what exactly? Talk about the journey a little bit. Kirk.
Yeah. So Mike is a very typical obstructive sleep apnea patient, and in that he has the type of sleep apnea that he has is called obstructive sleep apnea. And what that effectively means is that there's a physical obstruction in his airway when he lays down to sleep at night. And that obstruction, it actually closes off his airway to the point where, and that's an apnea event. And when it does that, then he can't breathe. And it cycles through this apnea, hypopnea cycle just keeps going all night. And what happens is that blood oxygen levels drop, all kinds of bad things start to happen when we don't have the ability to oxygenate and to respire the way that we're supposed to. So Mike's case is actually a pretty good one for our devices. Probably 85 to 90% of patients out there who have sleep apnea profile out similar to Mike. And so Mike is somebody that is a very good candidate for our treatment. And what we're going to do with him, he's had an evaluation by a dentist. And what we're going to do with him is we're going to put him through a regimen of nightly wear of our FDA cleared oral devices, which actually will reposition some of the tissues in his airway that'll give him a bigger, bolder, more patent airway. So we'll effectively remove that obstruction and give him a chance to have an open airway while he sleeps.
Are you, as you go through this, Mike, did you know, because I know you had a CPAP mask you mentioned.
Right.
And without it, do you walk around tired?
Exhausted.
Do you do all the
1 o'clock, 1:30, I'm like, ugh.
And if you're laying down watching a football game, you fall asleep, you happen to snore and stuff and all that stuff. So all these things are there.
Everything Kirk talked about, I was going.
So I remember when we were talking about it, you got that, okay, it's time to figure this out. And of course, it's the urgency, the urgency of your wife.
100%, yeah.
Urging of your wife.
Yes.
Talk about what you went through there real quick. So we showed some of the B-roll footage, and then where are you at now?
I am just waiting for my device now. And I can honestly say that going through this process has been so easy. It is streamlined. It's boom, boom, boom. You go through the sleep test. You take home a little finger monitor that's hooked up to your phone on an app. You don't have to go to a hospital.
I was going to say, you didn't have to sleep overnight.
No, you do it at your house. You do it for a couple days in a row.
That's a great excuse. But hey, I'm going to do a sleep study, honey. It's down in Mexico. I'll be back next Thursday.
The dentist who I worked with, Dr. Perps, and the Vivos technology is interwoven so beautifully that it's just, if you want a seamless, let's get you breathing better, Kirk, I told Kirk, I said, thank God you came to my life, because I was at that, I'm not wearing the mask anymore.
Hey, Kirk, let me ask you this. You also mentioned in studio here a number of times, and by the way, we're going to be doing BizTV, American Life Network, and even Bloomberg have asked us to do a documentary on the obstructive sleep apnea, and they're going to be our focus as far as the intelligence. You talk about other. We've had cardiologists in here, we've had pediatric physicians in here. Does Mike, one of those candidates, going to have to go see somebody else, like a chiropractor, somebody else involved in it, or is this a straight line case of just OSA where the dentist can help him? Because oftentimes you guys also enlist other folks in.
Yeah. So one of the things to know about obstructive sleep apnea is that it's a complex condition. It is not something that you can go to Amazon or online somewhere with some Yahoo hawking some over-the-counter device and get a fix. This is a very dangerous, very complex condition. So it is often the case that we need to involve a multi-specialty group of providers, healthcare providers, to get an optimal outcome. And so my guess is that we're going to probably involve, at a minimum, a myofunctional therapist and probably a local chiropractor to get everything in place. And it's a special form of chiropractic. It's not just your run-of-the-mill, crack your lower back type chiropractic. This is a very specific kind of chiropractic that's geared towards supporting an open patent airway, believe it or not. So we have a very unique approach to this. Our protocols are unique. But I suspect that before he's done, he will, which will take about 9 to 12 months. Mm-hmm. But I think before he's done, he'll probably be treated by a couple of different people. And but the impact of what we do should start to show up within the first couple of weeks. So it doesn't take long to start to turn this thing around.
First of all, Kirk Huntsman is his name. He's the CEO of Vivos Therapeutics. Their stock symbol is VVOS, Victor, Oscar, Sam, VVOS. Let's talk about you guys real quick before I let you out of here today. I know we're going to get you back in town here in a few weeks, and we're starting the documentary process and all that stuff. What's next for you guys? What's the latest? You had a couple news bits came out. Stock's been responding great. You got good stuff coming in for 2025. Talk about what's next for you guys and what you're looking forward to for the first quarter of 2025, in as much as you can as a CEO of a public company. Well,
today, as a matter of fact, Sully, we have an earnings announcement today. So a couple hours from now, I'll be back in front of the microphone again, and we'll be giving an actual earnings release, an announcement. I would say pretty good news, right? So pretty good news coming. Okay. And so we're excited about that. We're most excited to provide the street with an update on what's been happening with our new pivot. We pivoted over to a new marketing distribution model. And things there have been going along really well. We're excited about that. So, I think as we put all the pieces in place, Vivos in 2025 is going to look a lot different than Vivos historically. We're very, very excited about that. So stay tuned, and you guys, anybody that would like to hear our earnings release can go to our website later today or tomorrow, and the script and everything will be up there. And
Perfect. Vivos.com. Thank you, buddy.
Mr. Kirk Huntsman, CEO of Vivos, here's the stock symbol. You got sleep apnea. That is the man to talk to. That is.
Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
Oh, you're fired up.
Yeah, game changer. Game changer. All right, more of the Big Biz Show. In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network. As always, to the brave men and women of our United States Armed Forces, we salute you from the Big Biz Show inside the Loft 100 studios today. I'm Costa, Maribor Godwin, that's Greg Todorov right there, and of course, Sully.
No, just keep going.
We have ourselves a jam session here.
Oh, no. Oh, when they missed the cue, I just
Only
like this.
85 bars too long. Let's keep going. We're having a great time.
I didn't know you brought in the Grateful Dead.
The Day Trader Trio, ladies and gentlemen.
Grace is grooving.
Great poll, Greg.
You know what happened? No, this is what happened. Everybody in this entire studio is off because we found out that Kendrick, the joint barbecue guy, is coming in.
Yeah. That's what Trace is thinking.
Did you guys know that?
I
of
did
course
not
you do.
until they
See, the whole place is messed up. You get a little bit of food in this place, especially if it's Kendrick's barbecue.
Yeah.
This is like the barbecue you see like on Food Network barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Good stuff.
he he uses words like shank.
Yeah.
And
low and
tri-tip and low and slow and rub. What are you talking about?
Wait a minute.
You talking about
barbecue?
Such pigs, huh, Mary? Just pigs. Pigs.
He's bringing pork, too?
You realize that Wall
I'm
Street...
the only female in here still.
And he's also bringing food.
Oh,
Hey, everybody.
try the clams.
Okay. Yes, the Wall Street Journal called us Business with a Bar Slant about 15 years ago. We're at 125 million TV homes daily in this country, as well as American Forces Network on radio. And of course, let's not forget Bloomberg internationally. But one of our favorite things that happens is when we get someone referring us a publicly traded company. Since we don't just interview publicly traded companies, we interview barbecue companies too, apparently. But this company here, Envoy Medical, we got the CEO, Brent Lucas, coming in just a second. And we're going to talk about hearing health and hearing loss, which is something that I know you and I, who've had headphones on for our entire life,
I suffer from it.
are musicians. We got in-ears. And it's something, and I try to switch mine back and forth because I know there's going to be a day when I'm not just saying what, Mary, because I'm ignoring you. I'm actually saying what because I can't hear you.
I do it all the day long.
Yeah.
I have bad hearing.
What?
So let's talk to Brent Lucas. Brent Lucas is the CEO. Brent, how are you, sir? Thank you for coming along. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and be on the air with us and suffer through the beginning of this program. But great to see you, man. Let's talk about let's talk about hearing health. It's something we don't think about until it's almost like, remember when you got reading glasses? Some of you are too young for reading glasses, but it's the day of reckoning is coming, Greg Todorov, when it's going to be.
You told me this, and it literally happened the following week.
Did it really?
My arm wasn't long enough.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Brent, is that the same thing with hearing loss? All of a sudden it's there, it wasn't there before?
Really depends on the situation. I think for some people it is something you're born with, obviously. So some children are born hard of hearing or have profound deafness. Other people lose it throughout their life because of sound exposure. And then some people do wake up and all of a sudden find out that they've had sudden hearing loss. So it's all over the gamut, so to speak.
Hey, Brent, much like when your eyesight goes, that's because of rods and cones and all that good stuff in your eyes. Is it a deterioration within the ear mechanism, eardrum, all the smaller bones that causes most?
What he's really asking is, does booze cause hearing loss?
If I keep pouring bourbon in my ear, will it help?
Does eating too many Funyuns and Bako Bits cause hearing loss? No, it's actually a good question.
I hope not. Yeah, no, I would tell you that it really depends on the type of hearing loss, but the most common form of hearing loss is called sensory neural hearing loss, and that is where your cochlea, which is sort of your inner ear, it's the business end of your hearing loss, that has these little hair cells in there, and as they die off or get damaged, that can lead to hearing loss. That's the most common form of hearing loss. So yes, as you listen to too many rock concerts, wear your AirPods too long, like I do, I fall asleep with my AirPods at night. I'm probably doing some damage to my hearing loss, frankly.
What about the volume of the TV? Because my parents were older and had the volume so loud, and now I'm the same. My kids have it at 25, and I'm like, you got to crank that upwards of 40 because I cannot hear it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty. I need whatever you got going on. I need it.
And that's why you're here, Brent. So. Hey, Brent. By the way, Brent's company is publicly traded under the stock symbol COCH on Nasdaq. It's Envoy Medical. Talk about your solutions, because those who suffer. My father is 96 years old. God bless him. And if I talk to him on the phone, he's got hearing devices, and he's a pistol on the phone. But in public, because there's ambient noise, and I know, Brent, you're very familiar with what I'm about to say here. Ambient noise, he may as well be in a box. Mm-hmm. Because if there's any sort of ambient noise out there, including in a restaurant, plates tinkling, or it's your home, the water's running, even the TV in the background. Talk about your solution, though, because my dad would rather suffer in silence than be a burden, which I think is just tragic.
Sure. So we have two devices. We have a fully implanted active middle ear device. It's called the Esteem. That's been FDA approved since 2010. And that device picks up the sound from the ear. So we don't use any external microphones. So you talk about your dad being in a restaurant, ambient noise. One of the problems with hearing aids that so many people are familiar with is they pick up all of the sound in the environment and kind of amplify everything at the same level. But our device picks up the sound through the ear, so you get the natural benefit. I always point to our big floppy thing on the side of our heads. Those are called a pinna. They were designed, or they were evolved in a way to work with your brain, to pick up human speech, to pick up noise, and then work with your brain. Just like we both hear, or we both see with two eyes, we hear with two ears. And our brain was developed to hear through that. So when you can leverage the ear, which is what we're known for, that is our sort of secret sauce. We pick up the sound through the ear and then leverage that to deliver the therapy to the cochlea, which you see there is that snail-shaped thing. That's basically the end of your hearing nerve, which is what picks up the sound.
Brent Lucas, the CEO of Envoy Medical, their NASDAQ ticker symbol COCH. Brent, one of the favorite things we like to do with my dad is when he have his hearing aids in, is just to sit there and talk to him and go, and he's always going like that.
That is evil.
It totally is evil. Is there anything you can do to improve ear health before you get to the point where I'm calling you and saying, Brent, I give up, let's go, I want my hearing back?
Sure, and I'll tell you a funny story is when I tell people I work in the hearing industry, the first thing I always get is, what was that? And I fall for it all the time.
What was it?
And I work for a hearing company. So the answer is yes, you can do some things to help your hearing health. If you're younger, you should be wearing ear protection pretty much in any loud environment. So if your job or you go to a loud concert, you should always be wearing some sort of ear protection. And then there's also some drugs. So it's called ototoxicity. So there are some drugs that can actually harm your hearing. So be mindful of which drugs those are. Painkillers, for example, certain chemo drugs can do more harm than to your ear.
I real quickly. So what you have resolved for me, as I'm looking online here at your stuff, is that my dad would suddenly not have to deal with just one encode decode sort of arrangement. You've been able to bifurcate or even trifurcate in some levels. My in-ears show several different drivers in here, where it's a bass driver, a mid driver, a music driver. I know it's not a musical sort of a device, but you've been able to separate out spectrum, it seems, by way of a bio device.
Yeah, the beauty of our device is that it's working with your ear. So we don't have to rely on a microphone. We don't have to rely on artificial microphones picking up the sound. We rely on the ear. Now, we do process that signal, so it's not a perfect analog, but we do process that signal for the patient. But really what we've been able to do is give a person a way of hearing without being tied to it. So, you see somebody with a hearing aid or a traditional cochlear implant with a big external device, they're tied to that all day long. Your hearing loss is 24 hours a day. Your hearing solution should also be 24 hours a day. One of the things that people don't think about is the single mother at home who can't hear her child cry at night because she has to take off her hearing device. Our device is with you all day, every day, and that's really what sets us apart from everyone else.
Now, Brent, are these covered by insurance? I see something called the Hearing Device Clarification Act, because it seems like maybe they're not covered yet, which seems ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I'll start there. Yes, the first device, the Esteem device, is not currently covered by Medicare. Medicare calls this a hearing aid, which it is not. This is a hearing implant. And there are other hearing implants that are covered. So we're working towards getting this covered and hopeful that CMS and folks in Congress and maybe the administration, the current one or the incoming one, will help us get this passed. Essentially, what our devices are for when hearing aids are no longer good enough for you. When hearing aids aren't working for you, you can't hear well enough with them, or maybe they're not conducive to your lifestyle for a particular reason. For example, let's say you have bad eyesight and you can't change the hearing aid batteries and you need something with you all the time. This is a perfect example of when our device could be something that you need. So we're pushing that. We have a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate. And hopefully, an act of Congress is probably harder to predict than an act of God, but we're hopeful that things will come along.
Honestly, I need to follow up on this because we're going to get a million emails that this is going to end up being a public service.
Well, Brent, the bottom line is we all have older parents, older friends and stuff that all deal with it. So yeah, we're hitting the tip of the iceberg with you. He's Brent Lucas, CEO of Envoy Medical, NASDAQ ticker sign COCH. Brent, appreciate it. We'll get you back on soon. We are inside the Lock 100 studios. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, thanks for being with us. Coming to you from sunny Southern California. It is the Big Biz Show. I am Costa, Lumberjack Man. Mary Godwin.
No.
Brawny.
Dinty Moore Man.
Greg Todorov. And of course, Sully.
There's Mormons and there's Dinty Mormon. What is I think since we're still celebrating your birthday week and we're going into Thanksgiving, which is basically Mike's giving.
Pretty much.
This is your time. This is the most wonderful time of the year. It's the most
wonderful time of the year.
Not Christmas. It's the feed.
I love Thanksgiving.
I know
Thanksgiving, and it's kind of getting shuffled off to BFE, but it's just that cool.
Did I tell you about our Thanksgiving dinner pants commercial?
Yes.
Chris Castillo, our producer. Chris, could you just Google?
She's wearing them right now.
Thanksgiving dinner, stovetop Thanksgiving dinner pants. Because I'd like to, on the next program, air the Thanksgiving dinner pants promo for Mike, because we may have to do another commercial this year.
Why not?
Because you don't need regular pants on Thanksgiving. You need Thanksgiving dinner pants, which basically have a fold-over waistband that folds back up to catch the stuffing.
Genius. Hello.
Oh my gosh.
There they are.
Yeah, Thanksgiving dinner pants. There. Enjoy Thanksgiving with stovetop Thanksgiving dinner pants. That's us. That was us. Yeah, that was ours. It was good. We had those made. You love those, don't you? Hey, RJ Tesi is back. He's the CEO of Inmune Bio. Inmune Bio. I got a chance to talk to his whole team yesterday and just learn a little bit more about what these guys are doing. It's a really, really interesting company. They are publicly traded under the stock symbol INMB, Idaho Nancy Mark Bravo. And I'll tell you, we're talking about Alzheimer's again. And I know that I bring up my 96-year-old father and I bring up my 85-year-old mother. And I don't think that they're going down that road, but I do see some signs in my mom of potentially, an aged brain there. And we spoke to RJ about 6 months ago, then we spoke to him just a few weeks ago, and they've got 3 new drugs that have been approved for Alzheimer's disease, and they didn't really get a hero's welcome. So I want to talk a little bit about that and everything else going on. RJ, thanks for taking the time out today. I know I've stolen a lot of your time this week already, but it's great to see you again, man.
Great, thanks. How's my hair look? I got it specially done.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love it when you only need a washcloth to comb your hair.
Yeah.
Hey, RJ, talk about that because you guys target neuroinflammation as a cause of Alzheimer's disease. You came out with 3 drugs. The FDA hit a home run there and didn't get the hero's welcome. We talked about it a little bit last time. One more time, what do you think it's going to take to get people to get the aha moment there?
Yeah, I think you use a good term there. They did not get a hero's welcome, and really it's because the results, although positive, weren't as exciting as people wanted. People, particularly people with the disease, but more importantly, the people that actually care for those, whether they be the clinical teams or the caregivers, They want something that's going to stop the disease in its track. And what they were given by these drugs is drugs that slow the disease, and they're also a little bit difficult to manage. So we really got a couple important bits of information. Number one, amyloid, which is kind of the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease and what these drugs go after, is not the only solution. It's not even the solution. It's just part of the solution. And the second thing, it was clear that patients and the caregivers and their families are not going to accept anything less than something that stops the disease in their tracks. And I think that should be now the goal of those of us in the business of developing drugs for this disease, is safely stopping the disease in its tracks. And I think Immune Bio is well on its way to doing that. So,
Dr. Tesi, is things like sundowner syndrome, or the angst and the anger that a lot of times we see with Alzheimer's patients, is this something that is also starting to be curbed?
So you bring up some interesting points. So the sundowning is something that really occurs with more advanced disease. And I will say that right now, all of us in the industry, including Immune Bio, focus on milder forms of the disease, because by the time people get to the point that they're sundowning, in fact, that they've lost a lot of, shall we say, brain cells, and it's really hard to recover them.
Hey, RJ, real quick, let me interrupt real fast. Can you just, for our audience, define sundowning real quickly? I want to make sure everybody understands.
Sundowning is what happens. It's usually patients where they get quite cranky and difficult to manage, and even can get aggressive and quite nasty. And it often occurs late in the evening when they're heading off to, when you're trying to get them to bed. It's not as much related to change in light levels as a change in, it's time for them to move from one place to another.
Oh, okay.
So it's been they've taken the word sundowning, but I really want to go back to the point about these behavioral issues that were mentioned. Things like aggression, depression, sleep disorders. These are part of the disease very early on, and in fact, even in patients with not overt cognitive decline, they can, their disease can be manifest as something like suddenly, where before, they spilled milk and they went, oh, I spilled milk. Suddenly it becomes a major big deal. So these changes in behavior are part of the disease, and they are particularly related to neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation is a real driver of these kind of behavior abnormalities. You see it in Alzheimer's, you see it in depression, you see it in diseases like PTSD.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, well, what sort of things cause that neuroinflammation? Do we know?
So we do know a lot about this. So I'm going to tell you something. You're going to go, oh, really? The most important thing is age. It's a disease that correlates with age. And like you said, oh, really? But let me tell you why age is important. What happens is, as part of our natural aging process, cells are turning over. So the cells we were born with in our brain or in our heart or in our liver aren't the same cells we have when we're 60 or 70. Right. The natural history is they turn over and they undergo what's called senescence. That means they shrink away and then they're replaced by a fresh new cell. But when they shrink away, the immune system is supposed to come and gobble them up. Take out the garbage, so be it. The problem is, as we get age, the immune system gets less active, and we begin to leave the garbage around. It's kind of like your husband. He won't take out the damn garbage, right? And it becomes a mess. And it becomes a mess in the patient. And so that causes inflammation. So number one is age, and it's due to weakening of the immune system that occurs naturally as we age. I'm only 29. So
I know you're fantastic. The stock ticker INMB. And of course, you can go to the website, Mike?
The website is Inmune Bio, INMUNEBio.com.
There you go. RJ, thanks so much, bud. We'll see you next time. Unbelievable. And I love how he just puts it out for the rest of us. That does it for us today. More Big Biz coming up tomorrow. See you then.